Good morning. This is Rosemary, and this is Hands of Light by Rosemary. And the podcast is called The Lightwalker's Path. And I do hope that you connect with me at info@rosemaryd.com or rosemaryd.com, info@rosemaryd.com. And today I have a wonderful guest. Her name is Yarona Boster. Did I say that correctly?
Well enough. I'm
Very good.
perfectly happy with that.
Okay. She's an advanced certified life coach, TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and she has 18 years with human development, psychology, and coaching. She co-hosts the Evolution of Parenting podcast and helps leaders craft emotionally resonant messages. Her TED Talks explore loss, parenting, identity, and shaped by many experiences with death. She empowers others with empathy, resilience, purpose through transformational communication. And I'm very excited to speak to you today because it's all about energy, reading energy, and expressing ourselves. And I'm so thrilled that you're here today. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Rosemary. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Yes, so I'm really curious, and I wanted to have a conversation because I've noticed in my life, and I know that we have mentioned this before, that there's ways that people can communicate that either will bring someone closer or it creates a block. And a lot of people don't even realize that they're doing this. So I want to hear some of your secret tips for good communication.
Absolutely. I would say the very first thing that I operate under and that I try to help other people operate under is the platinum rule.
Mm-hmm.
So most people have heard of the golden rule, which is
Yep.
do unto others as you would want done for yourself.
Yes.
But the platinum rule implies more of an empathetic response. Do unto others as they would want done for themselves. The implication being that what you want for you isn't necessarily what other people want.
Good
So
idea. Yeah.
here's a great one, just a simple example. If my husband got me a puppy, now
Mm-hmm.
I love dogs, don't get me wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but he also knows that I'm more of a cat person.
Mm-hmm.
So him getting me a puppy would be more about him,
Yes.
less about me.
Yes.
And that's something now, of course, there's so much context to
Yeah.
unpack with that. So there's a lot more that goes on. For instance, the fact that my husband's allergic to cats, the fact that,
Yeah.
so there's all
Yeah.
these other pieces of the context. And one of the things that I don't want people to get wrong here is that I'm not saying when you're communicating that you have to be fully given over to their needs, because there
Mm-hmm.
has to be some give and take. There has to be
Mm-hmm.
some measure of compromise, and there has to be some fluidity and ebb and flow between
Mm-hmm.
yourself and the other person. So, of course, you step into that. If somebody else is really stressed, you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to get stressed along with them, but you
Right.
do want to be able to experience their stress in a way that empathizes with it, not get caught up in the whirlwind of it, but
Sure.
empathizes with their stress and discovers what it is that they need from you in
Mm-hmm.
that moment. And then ask yourself, is this something I'm capable of providing? So
Yes.
that's really the heart of communication for just about everything in every place and every space we communicate. It's understanding that, how do I meet this person where they need to be met?
Mm-hmm.
And am I capable of meeting them where they need to be met?
I love that idea. I love that idea. And being a former school teacher, that one of the things that was really good to be able to do was to read energy of a child and kind of know that you might have to teach them differently or approach them from a different angle, or what was right for one person in the room wasn't right for the other. And it's all the same idea of reading energy and finding what that person needs to make them feel valued and loved. And kind of that's where I always sit myself as well. I think that's really super important. And it's a wonderful thing that you're teaching this because it's something we kind of suck in and learn or don't learn, depending upon the role models that we watch to see how they do it. And many times they're not doing it in the way we need it or the way we should need it. So
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, that's super. So tell me about like how you became such a fabulous communicator. What was your childhood like? Were you a quiet child? Because I'm assuming might have been very quiet.
I was not a quiet child at all.
Okay, I was extremely quiet. So I was an observer for
I
many,
was
many
not,
years.
I was very much, I was friends with all. You know, I
Yep.
was just such a social bug. And yet at the same time, I was often interestingly caught in the middle of a lot of things. Being the youngest child of
Oh,
three, I
oh,
was
me
not,
too.
it's
Yes.
very interesting that the way I tended to show up was a lot of times for other people. So it was very much in service of
Mm-hmm.
others. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that was because a lot of the value that was taught, it was taught to me that your own, and I hate to put this out there, but this was the thing that was shown to me. I'm of value when I'm a productive member of society. I'm of
Yes.
value when I am doing for others, when I'm serving others, when I'm,
Mm-hmm.
so there was a lot of that, which to my mind actually is really detrimental, because a lot of children get taught this, that that's
I
what
was
your
taught the
value
same
is.
thing. I totally
Yeah.
understand that. Yes.
And that's really sad because I've come so far in that. Now I want to teach people, you exist, therefore you matter.
That's it. And I think that's such a hard lesson and a valuable one because it's not only like for me, it was people pleasing, making mom and dad happy because I lost a sister when I was a child. She died, you know. So in my family, it was like I was the baby. So I had to make everybody smile, make everybody happy. And I almost didn't feel I had a right to be upset or angry or voice what I needed. And it
Mm.
took me probably until my mid 30s before I figured out, oh, I can say what I need to. And still, it's a lesson for me, even at my age now. I have to remind myself, you can say you need that today. So it's a constant relearning,
It,
I think.
it is. But what's
Yeah.
very interesting, when you're taught to be a people pleaser and you're a very vocal person, what
Mm-hmm.
comes out is what a lot of times comes out is me fighting for the rights of others. And that
Yeah.
happened from, I was very young. M- my sister, my middle sister, was much more reserved, much more quiet.
Mm-hmm.
My parents would yell and scream, and she would just kind of back away and move, she would
Mm.
just shut down. And
Mm-hmm.
I would jump in to defend her.
That's
And
like my
my
sister and
mom used
I.
to call
Yes.
me my sister's little lawyer. That's what she used to call me.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
being a person who was taught I need to be productive in order to be
Mm-hmm.
valuable, I was not your traditional people pleaser though, because I
Yeah.
was more loudmouthed about it. I was like,
Right.
okay, I'm going to be of service by fighting for other people. And I was
Yes.
constantly doing that and making waves and doing things like.
Yes.
But on my side of the fence, I felt like I needed to put a voice out there, but I still needed to please, obviously, my
Yeah. In
parents,
your mind.
and I
Yeah.
still needed to please other authority figures. So when it came to authority figures, I didn't fight with them, but man, oh
Yeah.
man, did I fight with everybody else. And I
Yeah.
shouldn't say fight, because I made a lot of friends, but I fought for everybody else.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
And
funny. I had a
that's
child in
strange.
my class years ago that was just like that. And I said to the mother, he was 8 years old. I said, he's going to be a lawyer and he's going to be fantastic. And I knew it because he would defend the rights of all the kids in the room. And he was such a great kid. And he is a lawyer to this day,
That's
but
really funny.
it's like I just knew. And that's a personality exactly. And it
Hmm.
reminded me like my sister is a very strong personality. And she was the fighter and I was the pleaser. So our personalities are still very much like that. And sometimes she'll say, "Why don't you speak up for yourself?" And I'm saying, "Calm down." So we have these kind of like diverse personalities that we teach each other what the other
That's
person needs or
funny.
didn't have. So that's pretty cool that you do
Isn't
that
that,
as well.
it's so amusing, but here's something that I find really interesting. What most people don't realize. People think that their nature is hardwired into them, and
Hmm.
that means they're going to show up that way regardless of the circumstances, but that's not true. It
Right.
requires our nature and our nurture in order to actually produce things
Yes.
into existence. It
Yes.
requires that. We are not actually pre-constructed, meaning we're not just going to be that way. It
Right.
requires the stimulus of our environment in order to get
Oh
those
yeah.
things out of us.
Oh, I
So
I agree. I agree.
it's not, and this, we know this, we have the brain science, we have so much now in the research that shows that this is the
Mm,
case, right? There's not a fight over nature versus nurture. There shouldn't be.
no.
It
Mm-mm.
requires both in order to show up the way we show up. And that means, here's the great thing about that, it means we can learn how to change and we can
I
modify how
agree.
we show up. And
Yes.
modification doesn't mean that we're falsifying it. It means we're able to create the environment we want to see around us. So we don't have to be beholden to the experiences we have.
Hmm.
We can choose
It's
how we
reframing.
want
Yeah.
to change the way we show up. So,
Absolutely. Yes. I think
and
it's
this
a lot of reframing,
it is, yeah.
Yana, too. So it's when you have an experience, you can have two people with the exact same experience, and it's what you learn from it and how you transform it that's going
Mhm.
to be how your memory and how you're functioning in that situation. I had a friend who always saw the negative. I'm like, and we could be in the same situation, and I would see the positive, and our experience was vastly different. Therefore, it was based on like our beliefs and what we were thinking and how we reframed it. So I think part of it is when you go through something, reframe your experience. What did I learn from it? What did it teach me about myself and about my journey that, I could have missed if I was like, oh, poor me, And I think that's like that in everything we go through in life.
I was always much more reactive in the
Hmm.
environment that I was in because
Hmm.
that's what I learned as a child. I
Right.
saw that my parents would everything it was my childhood was it was either everything was really great or everything was screaming, fighting cats and dogs. So there
Oh,
was not a whole lot of in between.
yeah.
And the way I learned to communicate was very reactivity. It was a lot of
Yeah.
reactivity communication. It was a
Right.
lot of like something happens, I've got to react. And
Yes.
it's very interesting that that's the way that I chose. So it's funny that at the beginning you said you were probably very observant because I've learned to become more observant. I
Hmm.
had to teach my body how to do that. I had to teach myself
Right.
how
Right.
to do that so that I could be more responsive instead of
Love
reactive.
that.
And I want
Yeah.
people to understand this is not 100% of the time. There are plenty
Right.
of times where I become reactive and I'm like, oh, I did reactivity and I didn't respond
Yeah.
properly, especially when it comes to me, my husband, and my son. Like the three of us, if there's a circumstance and
Answer.
everything,
Yeah.
man, my son is really good at doing that, at that, and that, triggering my reactivity nature
Uh-huh.
from what I learned as a child. But what's so important to understand is that means we can change the way we communicate. We can
Yes.
even change the way we communicate with ourselves.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. When you said about ourselves, I know that when I was younger, sometimes I would be, saying the negative things to myself. I stopped myself at about 11, age 11. I'm like, why am I doing that? And I started just putting the elastic band on my wrist. And then if something came up, I would say, no, you're not dumb. You didn't make a mistake. You're just going to have to choose differently. And I
Mm.
started that really young. And that's been a godsend to me. And I know like people with negative self-talk, they're beating themselves up. And they're creating this energy of negativity about themselves. And, how can you like yourself when you're beating yourself up and calling yourself names? You can't, you know?
Or when you're beholden to a diagnosis. Okay,
Yes,
so I'll
yes.
tell you a little story. When I was, I don't know, I think I was in no, I was 40. So when I was 40, I had been seeing a therapist on and off through
Hmm. Hmm.
since actually I think my parents took me to somebody when I was a kid because I was an extreme procrastinator with my homework.
Hmm.
Uh, of course, there was a lot of volatility in my home, so that made a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Yes. Control. Yeah.
But um, when I was about 40, I was seeing a therapist and we were just chatting about something. And I explained to her that when I was a child, when I was around 11 or
Yeah.
so, I started using a notebook that
Mhm.
I would write my day literally from the start of my day. I would write wake up. My sister used to make fun of me. She was like, blow my nose. And
Oh,
she would
yeah,
write
yeah,
all those
yeah,
things in.
yeah.
But I would literally write wake up, take a shower, XYZ, and
Oh,
write my entire day out.
wow.
And here's the craziest thing. When I was 40, I was explaining this to this therapist, and she says to me, oh, well, that was one of your coping mechanisms for your ADHD. And I looked at her and I
Yeah.
go, what are you talking about?
Yeah, from describing yourself, that was my guess of what they would have said about
But
your energy.
here's the crazy thing. I
Yeah.
had never been officially diagnosed with ADHD. This was the
Yeah.
first time somebody was bringing it up to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
at
no, I would
40,
say,
I
yeah.
was diagnosed with ADHD, and
It's funny because when you
I
were
was like,
telling your
hold on a
story,
second.
I had, when I was a teacher, like half of my class had some sort of, what do you call it, diagnosis. And what I
Mhm,
had said is, because you're living in this structured environment that we call school, you would
mhm.
have been the warrior. You would have been out there, taking care of your tribe. But now we've stuck you in an environment and expect you to sit there when you have all this energy. So I would have, like, I would send the kids to the spare room with like something to lift up, or I'd say, go bring the note to the lady down the hall. And the kids knew if they got a certain note that means to go out and do like jumping jacks and come back. And, I kind of worked with it. So I didn't allow that label to change how I thought of that child. I said, you're extremely brilliant. Has nothing to do with smarts. It has to do with you have a lot of energy and we're expecting you to do something your body can't do right now. You
Right. And we
know?
do that to, I mean, we have this expectation. I was
Yes.
just talking to so my son is in camp, and I was talking to the director, and as I was picking him up the other day, and she, my son and his best friend and this other boy, when the three of them are together, it's complete chaos. It
Hmm.
is total chaos. I had and a few weeks ago, I learned the hard way not to put three chaotic boys in a sleepover together. I was exhausted after that one.
I
But
bet.
what's so interesting is that I said to myself, I let them go crazy in our house because I was like, you know what? They need space to do that. Because think about it. We're
Yeah.
putting them in an environment and we're telling them you must retain all your attention here. You have 20
Yes.
minutes for recess. 20 minutes for first
Yes.
graders to have recess
Oh
is
no.
ridiculous.
They
It's
have to
ridiculous.
run. Oh my
20
God.
minutes and then
Yeah,
20 minutes for lunch. What do you think is going to happen when the rest of
of
the day they're
course.
expected to sit
Yes, it's the
still
mark
and
of
pay
that.
attention? So and then they go home and the parents don't want to see it. And as
Yes.
opposed to when I was growing up and when you were growing up, probably, we were sent outside, like,
Go
okay,
out,
go
play.
run around
Go
outside and come back
run.
in when when the street lights go on,
That's
right? And
right.
in the summertime, that's a lot later, So come in for dinner. Okay.
Yes.
Then they got to be able to run out that
They
energy.
have
But
to
now we're anticipating they should come into the home,
do
sit
homework.
quietly,
Oh,
play with a toy quietly, be quiet, be
yeah.
attentive, be this.
That's
And
terrible. I
the
know.
expectations we have on children are so
It's
unrealistic
hard. Yes.
when actually one of the things in early childhood, and you know this, one of
Mm-hmm.
the ways that humans learn, we are a motorized people.
Yes. Yes. They have
We
to
don't
play.
just emote, but we actually physically motor to what our needs are.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
So
agree completely with that.
if we were a sedentary creature, if we were the
Hmm.
sloth, it would be
Yes,
different, right?
that's
But that
right.
is not what humans are. So one of the ways we learn is through movement.
Absolutely.
And when
Absolutely.
young children move, they're learning, they're
They
integrating the
do.
learning that they to pick up. So it really
Yes.
frustrates me. And I want to bring this back to communication. We are communicating the inappropriately with our
Uh-huh.
children when we tell them that your natural adherence to movement, your natural
Hmm.
development is improper.
Yes.
That's what we're telling them. Your
Yes.
natural need to move is wrong.
That's right.
That's what we're
That's
communicating
right.
with them.
Yes. What advice would you give then if you have a person like, I know what I would do as a teacher, but like first, second, third grade, when they're exploring the world and you want them to be appropriate in certain situations, like out to dinner, whatever, but you also want to value their energy. What are some skills that you would say that would be necessary for a child?
I think if you have a child, and not every child is like this, some children
Yeah.
are much more internalized
Yes.
in their
Yes.
world and they're much more, okay, so first things first, you have to evaluate and assess your child and what
Mm-hmm.
their needs are. Are they a really high movement child or are they not? If they're a child who can attend to a lot of things, and of course we want them to be capable of attending, but then you have
Mm-hmm.
to give them the input that they need. So
Yeah.
my advice would always be to give them what they need along with what you desire what for them to be capable of doing to attend. So if you're
Right.
going to be going to a restaurant, then prior to the restaurant, you need to, if this is a high movement child, you need to give them an opportunity to have a high
I
movement
agree.
time
I agree.
before you go and expect them to sit down at the
Absolutely. And I
restaurant.
also think to set parameters, like before you go in, I know we did this with my grandson. I said, okay, we know that when we're in restaurants, we usually have to sit at the table. You can't play under the table during dinner, but you have to actually tell them because they don't know. And if they've got all this energy, they're going to wind up doing something that you don't want them to do. And then you're in the position of disciplining rather than saying, oh, remember we talked about what we do when we're at a restaurant and what we do when we're at a friend's house. We don't jump on the couch, you know. So you have to tell them this stuff because they don't know. They're not they don't know.
I'm going to also offer a caveat to that. Everything
Yeah.
is contextual. So if
Hmm.
in my home, it's okay to jump on our couches.
Yes,
I'm
that's
okay
right.
with that. So
Yes.
one of the things my son has learned from a very early age is ask questions.
Yes,
Like
that's
ask
good.
questions in the
Am I
environment
allowed
you're
here?
in. Am
Yes.
I, is okay, in my home we jump on the couch. Am I allowed to jump on your couch here?
That's really
Ask the
good.
questions. Like
Yes.
what you need to understand the environment you're walking into. So in a restaurant,
I
you
love
need to
that.
understand what is the environment you're walking into. If this is a like a I don't know if there was ever a restaurant where they had like
Yeah.
trampolines and stuff like that,
McDonald's,
obviously,
you know, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Some restaurants provide those coloring stuff and things like that. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I also do is I always bring stuff
Bring the
to be
bag.
able to occupy my son, not a
Hmm.
tablet,
Yes.
not my
Something they're
phone,
drawing or
because we're going to
engaging.
get to that. I want them to understand, like one of the things that we started doing was we bring these card games and stuff like that. There's
Hmm.
one of my favorite ones is uh gosh, what's this one called? Oh my God, I'm forgetting. But it's like, would you rather? That's the game. Would
Okay.
you rather do this or do this? And some
I
of
love
the
that.
answers are extraordinarily because that
Yeah,
engages my
yeah.
son's giggliness and
Yes. That's
his
cute.
silly thinking. So, like, would you rather, eat
Be an
10
elephant.
earthworms or, I'm
Yeah.
gonna get
Yeah, yeah,
gross,
yeah.
10 ladybugs and stuff like
Uh,
that.
that's
Like, it's
cute.
because he finds that really amusing, and then
Yeah.
we'll like make up things together, and sometimes we'll
Love
bring
that.
his little toys, like his Minecraft toys and stuff like that, and we're playing with
Yes.
it.
That's how I raised my son. We always had we called the doozy bag, and we would put in there his coloring things. My son's an artist. He's an adult, but he's extremely creative, and his two boys are as well. So
Yeah.
now, like, because I raised my son with the doozy bag, him and his wife always have one for the boys when we go out, you know, all their
Yeah,
coloring things and their drawing pad
exactly.
and all the stuff
Exactly.
that they can do during dinner waiting times.
And here's what's really important about that too. Recognize that as they age, you have to change the things in the bag, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have to
Of
change
course.
the things for
Yeah.
to appeal to their interest.
Uh-huh.
We have Uno, we have, like,
Uh-huh.
so there's many different ones. So now we're like, okay, what do we put in it? So
Mm-hmm.
now, because my son is 7, he can
Mm-hmm.
decide what he wants to bring with.
Love that. Yes.
Instead, so
Yes.
that way it's like,
Give him a
okay, you
choice.
decide what your interest is in this moment. That
Yes.
means that you're going to be more engaged when we're at the
Yeah.
restaurant and not just pick out the same
You
old
pick,
things.
yeah, you put the things in the bag. Yeah, the boys
Right.
do that too. And that's part of
Very
their
important.
fun. Like, can I bring this? Can I bring that? You know, and they'll put stuff in there for themselves.
And
Yeah,
what it's
really
saying is
cute.
it's communicating to our kids that it's okay that things change. We just
Mm-hmm.
have to make sure that they change in an appropriate way, appropriately to the
To the
environment we're walking
situation.
into,
I
to the
love that.
situation we're walking into.
That's such a
Um,
great point.
One
Yeah.
thing I do want to say, and the reason why I really want parents to truly understand, parents, educators,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, anybody who is in a role that has an influence over a child,
Mm-hmm.
is the worst thing you can do is hand them a device.
Yeah, I tend to agree because we didn't grow up with it, and I know it does something with the brain, right?
Yeah, so I want to talk
Repatterning.
about that.
Go
So the
ahead. Yeah.
reason why is because it's the same thing as if you were drugging them.
Yeah, the same, but the dopamine response in the brain, isn't
it
it?
it hits the same receptors in the brain as drugs and
Yeah.
alcohol. So I
Yeah.
I ask every
Wow.
parent, I'm like, if you aren't planning on opening up your liquor cabinet and shoving a fifth of vodka down your 5-year-old's throat just to keep them quiet and sedated
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
guys go out into the world, whatever that may be, food shopping,
Yes.
running over to do, errands,
Yes.
going to out to eat, anything you do, stop handing your children a device
I
because you're
love that. Yeah.
drugging them.
That's
You're
very good.
the sensory input that they're
Yes.
receiving is not sensory input that they require, need,
Fire.
or actually healthy for them in any way, shape, or form. It's not.
That's great. That's a great key, especially for now when, I didn't grow up with that because it wasn't even invented till the 90s, but we had not, we were the outdoor playing people and up a tree and riding bikes and all that physical stuff. And we didn't have that to distract us, which is wonderful because then you're engaged in just developing yourself. You're not running around and wondering how many likes you have and all this other nonsense that these poor kids are so
But
engaged with
even
now.
prior to that, right? So that's
Yeah.
like the teen years, right? And then we're dealing with the early childhood years of just the sensory input of these mindless YouTube videos, uh, games that really, and
Yes.
I see a lot of parents are like, yeah, but what about the educational games? No, no, I'm telling you
Yeah.
this, they will gain a lot more education if in the car you pick out things like, look at
What
the
do you
trees,
see?
like, oh, what do you think of
Yes.
that? What do you think of that?
Observation.
Hey, I see that tree. I think is an oak tree. This is a that. This is
Yes.
a that. Playing games like I Spy with my little eye.
That's
We have
right.
this really cool card game that's called Road Trip.
Yeah.
And now
I've
we
done
do
that.
road trip. And so the cards are like, you need to find a cow,
Yeah.
the letter J on a license plate, a black
Right.
SUV,
Yes.
a red pickup truck, like so many things, a plane in the sky, a bird.
Right.
So we're observing. And the
Observing the
greatest
world.
thing, can I tell you this? My
Mm.
son knows directions. If we're heading to the Costco, he knows
Yeah.
what road to take. He knows
Yeah.
the roads to take.
Yeah.
He
That's
knows
amazing.
the things like
Because he's
he
observing.
he still even says, like, when we go on a certain road to a certain direction, he's like, "Oh, that was where my nursery school was."
Oh, see,
Like
that's
he knows
great.
where his
Yeah.
nursery school was, his
Yeah.
preschool, preschool place was because he's been observing all this
Observing.
time. And
Yeah.
what we do when we hand them a device is we take them out of the environment that they are in.
Right.
They have no observational skills. They
Right.
have
That's
no
true.
awareness of the environments, and they are so lost without us.
I love that. That's very good advice. I hope you get a lot of people that are going to listen to that from you because that's really a wonderful way to reframe it to say this is why. It's not just that we don't like the video. That's really good.
So,
Yeah. So
so
I want you to talk about you have some coaching and other things you do for people. So tell me, like, what are some of the services that you offer that you want to tell people about today?
So I do things, it's interesting. Everything I do is under the auspice of communication. That's I
Hmm.
call it the umbrella.
Right.
Communication is the umbrella. I help people communicate better. And
Yes.
then environment, like contextually where that goes, on the one side, I have my work that I do with parents or
Yes.
even adults with adult parents, like adult children of adult parents. I work with a lot of clients who they
Hmm.
had a lot, they're realizing that the way their parents communicated with them was inappropriate
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
the environment was inappropriate. So I work with people at all different stages where parenting is a key component of the development
Do you do it
process.
one-to-one or in a group, or do you do both?
I do one-to-one. However,
Mm.
what I also have is a program, it's called Healthy Signals Parenting Program. And again,
Okay.
any parent can take it at any stage of their parenting development because I teach the components of what I believe are the foundational elements of parenting.
Can you repeat that? Did you say
Sure.
healthy signals
Healthy
parenting?
Signals Parenting Program.
And
Yes.
how would they find this?
They can find it on my website. So the one for
Okay.
parents is under footprintscoaching.org. Yes.
Footprintscoaching.org. Okay, I'm just writing this down.
Yes, footprintscoaching.org.
Cool. Okay.
And that one, and I also work with people who've experienced loss in
Hmm.
that life coaching realm because loss is something that's been a huge teaching tool for me in my own personal life.
Mm.
And then it became a part a little bit professionally as well,
Oh,
but
sorry to hear it.
huge piece of my life. And in
Yes.
fact, it's the puzzle, it's the teaching tool by which I work with parents too.
Oh.
Because here's what I do. I say, let's go out to the very end. Let's
Hmm.
expand all the way there. Let's say you're at the end of your life.
Mm.
You're on your deathbed and people are like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
don't want to go there," right? But we go there.
Yes.
And I say, what is the one thing as a parent, in your role as a parent, what's the one thing you want to know before you leave this earth?
Mm-hmm.
And most people in some way or another look at it from, I want to know my kids will be okay without me.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that okay usually centers not around financially secure. I mean, yes, that's a part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The financial security, the established, do they have a home? Do they have are they going to have a relationship, et cetera, et cetera. But really what it comes down to, the root of it, the real root of it is I want to know they'll be emotionally capable of moving on with their lives.
That's right. Well, that's vital. That yes,
So I always say we have to
absolutely.
start with that end goal in mind.
Yes.
Everything we do with our kids has to be centered around the understanding we won't always be here for them.
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's really good. And to teach them that independent spirit so that they're not, I think a lot of people that are insecure, when they raise their kids, they want their kids to want them so much that they don't allow them the choice and to know you're going to be great. Look at that decision you made. I think that's so important because when you teach them
Yes.
the other thing, you're allowing this codependent, weird
Hmm.
vibe to happen, and then they're going to do that their entire life. They won't be
Yes.
able to function.
And I have to remind a lot of parents that's a you issue, not a them.
Absolutely.
You are
Yes.
independent human beings. We are born into
Yes.
this world independently.
Yes. Cahill Gibran, right?
Yes.
We're a vessel for the
We're a
children.
vessel and we are born independently and we leave independently. Even
Mm-hmm.
if we leave independently with other people around us also leaving at the exact
Yes.
same moment, even if we're
We're
born
still
with a
alone.
twin, a triplet, etc., we're still in an independent vessel,
Absolutely. Boy,
you know,
that's powerful.
and that requires us to understand that as an autonomous person, your child is an autonomous person. They're going to choose
Hmm.
their own path. You're going to have your path.
That's it.
Your paths can look similar. There's a lot of stuff that can happen that looks very similar. But at the
Yes.
end of the day, you still have to remind yourself that they're an independent person. They're not going to make the same choices as you. They're not walking the same path
They
as you.
don't have to. Yeah, they're
Not
not
in
there to please
time, not
us.
place. Right.
Yes.
But when I say an independent path, think about it from even the trajectory of the chronology of time.
Hmm.
They can't possibly walk the same path as you because you walked a path, your path
Different.
at a different time than
Different
they're
time.
walking their path.
Different experience.
Everything is different. Even when you have 5 kids, each of
Yes.
them are
Each
walking an
one
independent path, and your relationship with each of them is completely
different.
independent. It's
Yes.
completely different. So,
Yeah.
and any parent who has multiple kids will tell you the way they
Yes.
interact, the way they have, right? It
Yeah.
could look similar. It's not the same. And this is one of the reasons why I'm going to give a statistic about this.
Hmm.
There was a study done about, I think it was 13 years ago now, and they calculated how unique every human being is. They figured out
Hmm.
based on genetic traits, based on environmental where you're born into, when you're born into, all of
Hmm.
these things, and then experientially as you move through life.
Yeah.
We are as unique as 1 in 400 trillion humans.
That's amazing, right? That's kind of like we're a little bit of sparkle, and each person's a little bit of sparkle, and everybody's sparkle's different.
Sparkle's just a
I
touch different.
love
Even
it. I
if
love that.
two people look so similar,
Doesn't
act very
matter.
similar, they're still
Different.
individually for one in
Yeah, they
400
have to
trillion.
be.
And we don't even have 400 trillion humans in recorded history yet.
Yeah, yeah. That's so interesting.
So
Wow.
that's where choice comes into play. There's so many options here. We have to be ready to understand that intrinsically. We
Yeah,
really have to
yeah,
take that in.
yeah.
We have to absorb and embody that message and understand that individuality,
Love that.
which means that your kids aren't going to be your mini me. They're not going to be living in your shadow. They're not going to choose the
Hmm.
same things you choose. And
I
we
shouldn't
have to
have to.
be okay
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. I think that the thing is too, like I always tell my son, he's an adult, and I always say that your life isn't here to please your parents. You're
Right.
here to live your life and to do what you believe is the right thing for your life.
Right.
And, it freed him to be able to decide, and I think that's really important to know that.
And
So,
what's right for you isn't necessarily
is
going to be right for somebody else. And
absolutely.
that's okay as well. As
Yes.
long as you're not harming yourself or others,
Yeah,
That's okay.
that's
That's
okay.
the base
Believe it.
value we teach, right? That's the base value. No harm to others, no harm to
Others.
self. And
Yes.
and then here's the craziest thing. Even when they do choose to harm themselves or they do
Still
make
their
a choice
choice.
to harm others, it's still their
It's
choice.
still their choice. And that's the hell
And
of it, right? Yeah,
yeah, and
free
you can
will.
only be as responsible as the influence that you provide to them.
That's it. That's
And
an
I'm going to go here before I tell you the next piece of other ways that I work with people. Even the parents of school shooters. And I know
Mm-hmm.
recently we've had this, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is an element of responsibility, absolutely, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the choices you made led to
Yeah.
certain consequences because it enabled,
Yes. Yes.
right? So you were making, so I want people to understand that what I'm not saying is that you have no responsibility. You do.
Mm-hmm.
You have a certain amount of responsibility because of the influences and then the choices you made that put certain things
In
in
their way.
there in your child's pathway,
Right. That's right.
what how you enabled them to move forward. So
Yes.
there is a certain amount of responsibility, but it's not a full and totality of responsibility.
Right.
Your child can't usurp their responsibility too
Mm-hmm.
of the choices they made. There is ownership on both sides, but it's
Yes.
not 100% one way or the other.
Right. I agree. I agree.
That's important to understand
Yeah,
too.
it's free will. And I think all souls come in with a journey and things they have to learn. And we
Yeah.
decide that before we're even born here. So when you're in a
Mhm.
certain family group, you're going to learn from that family group. And then there's certain things that you have come here to do. And
Yes.
sometimes, your free will gets you messed up. But I
Yes.
think it's for a reason.
And here's why. Here's the whole why of this. Because even though we're born into this world as individuals, we
Mm-hmm.
live in a communal world.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
these two things have to operate together. We are an
Yes.
autonomous individual human living in a
Living
communal
in a,
world.
that's right. That's right.
And that requires us to both understand our individualized actions and
And
the
the others.
broader impact they have on a communal world, in a
Yes.
communal society. If you're living on Walden's Pond, if you're
Yeah.
living on
Yeah.
your own in the wilds, that's a
Different.
whole different story. But
Sure.
then you have to think about your impact on the world
On the
itself,
world. Yeah, yeah,
right?
that's
If
right.
you're in an environment and you choose to set a fire, guess
Yeah,
what? We only live in one atmospheric world.
that's right.
That means that fire you set is still going to impact
All
others.
actions have a consequence or a
Yes,
reaction. So,
exactly. But I
yeah,
want
yeah,
people to
yeah,
think of
yeah.
it as an autonomous individual living in a communal world
Love that.
because most of us, 99.9% of us live in that, in some kind of society and
Yes,
somewhere in the world.
I love that.
And that means we need to understand that because otherwise, if we solely lived autonomously, it would be a world of complete chaotic and
Hmm.
complete chaos.
Yeah,
But we don't. We live in a
absolutely.
communal world, so we have to consider that in.
Yes, yes.
Now, I will say this. So the other way I work with people is again under the umbrella of
Hmm.
communication. I work
Hmm.
with people who are leaders,
Hmm.
who are entrepreneurs, who are varied managerial levels, who are working to communicate in the world, whether it's the world of their work, their professional work,
Hmm.
or from the world of their profession in a public speaking sphere.
Right, right.
So whatever requires communication in your job
Hmm. Right.
is how I help people. So I will help people. I've had a clients who are directors, who are CEOs, who are in a leadership role in their job that
Hmm.
requires them to speak to their subordinates and or their superiors,
Yeah.
and they aren't doing it well. And they
So,
need to understand better how to communicate better with
so for people to reach you for that service, do they go
yes,
to another website? Because I have footprint
yes.
coaching.
And
What's
both
the
of them
online
are
one for you?
connected. They're
They
both of
are.
them are
Okay.
connected. The other
Okay.
one is yaronaboster.com.
Okay. That's easy enough. Your name.
And that's easy. So if they want to find me, if they can't remember footprints coaching for the parenting and loss work, they
Uh-huh.
can absolutely go to
Okay.
yaronaboster.com and
Perfect.
they'll be able to actually find
Perfect.
the footprints coaching work.
Okay. So before we close up today, is
Yes.
there any last words that you want to share with us today? Any closing, any closing statements you want to make?
The way we communicate matters.
I agree.
It is the behavior by which we show up in the world.
Love
Our
that.
thoughts, our feelings, our ideas. Communication is the behavior by which those thoughts and feelings and ideas get
I
shared.
I love that. You need to make a t-shirt like that. That's
I think I will.
that's a great
I
saying.
think I will.
Yes. So I want to thank you so much for being here today with me and sharing your wisdom and your insights. I really appreciate it, and I enjoyed speaking to you today. So I hope people do reach out to you and also to me if you have any questions for either one of us, and we would love to hear from the listening audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you.